Today we're going to discuss the noble lie. It's a term that's been around for centuries but has been discussed more frequently in recent years. The idea is simple. Sometimes rulers and leaders must use deception in order to maintain social order, protect the public and promote the common good. But is this term really as noble as it sounds? The concept of the noble lie has a long and complex history, dating back to ancient Greece. The term originated in Plato's Republic, where he used it to describe a myth that would be told to the citizens of the ideal state in order to maintain social order and unity. According to Plato, the noble lie was a necessary tool for the ruling class to maintain control over the masses, as it would inspire loyalty and obedience in the citizens. In his influential work of philosophy, Plato argues that a just society must be ruled by a philosopher king who uses the noble lie to maintain order. The lie would be that every person was born with a specific metal in their soul that determined their role in society. The noble lie was justified by Plato as being necessary for the good of the state, but has been criticized by subsequent philosophers for its manipulative nature. The concept of the divine right of kings was a noble lie used by monarchs in Europe in the 16th and 17th centuries. It claimed that the king's right to rule came directly from God and could not be questioned by its subjects. This idea was used to justify the absolute power of monarchs and was heavily criticized by Enlightenment thinkers who argued for the rights of individuals and the need for government by consent. Immanuel Kant was a strong critic of the noble lie, arguing that lying was always morally wrong. In his Groundwork of the Metaphysics of Morals, Kant argues that the moral value of an action depends on the intention behind it. Therefore, even if a lie seems justifiable in the short term, it is ultimately immoral because it undermines the trust that is necessary for a just society. Jean-Jaques Rousseau was a political philosopher who in his book The Social Contract argued that the ideal society is one in which citizens are bound together by a shared sense of identity and purpose. While Rousseau did not use the term noble lie, his ideas about creating a shared myth or narrative are relevant to the concept. In his Discourse on Inequality, Rousseau argues that the development of private property and social hierarchies was the result of deception and manipulation by the powerful. He argues that an ideal society is one in which all citizens are equal and no one is able to manipulate or control others through deception. During the rise of the Nazi Party in Germany, propaganda was used to manipulate the German people into supporting the Nazi regime. One example was the myth of the stab in the back, which claimed that Germany had not really lost World War I, but had been betrayed by Jews and other subversive elements. This myth was used to rally support for the Nazis and was a key component of the propaganda campaign. This myth is similar to the Lost Cause of the South, which claims that the American Civil War was not about the issue of slavery, but was a just response against so-called Northern aggression. In her book The Origins of Totalitarianism, political theorist Hannah Arendt argued that the use of noble lies was a key component of totalitarian regimes as they sought to control their citizens through misinformation and propaganda. Arendt's work continues to be relevant today, particularly in the context of the proliferation of misinformation and fake news in the digital age. Michel Foucault, a French philosopher who lived in the 20th century, criticized the noble lie in his work Discipline and Punish in the context of the modern prison system. Foucault argues that the use of deception and manipulation to control prisoners is a key component of the modern penal system, which he sees as a mechanism for social control and oppression. The US government used the noble lie during the Vietnam War to justify the conflict to the American people. The government claimed that the US was fighting to prevent the spread of communism and to protect freedom and democracy in South Vietnam. However, as the war dragged on, it became increasingly clear that the noble lie was a false narrative and public support for the war eroded. Unfortunately, the American government had not learned from this lesson and has used the noble lie in a number of other contexts to justify aggression and intervention, such as the claim that Iraq possessed nuclear weapons and an invasion was not only necessary but noble. In the modern era, the noble lie has been used in a variety of contexts, from religious myths and legends to political propaganda. Some have argued that it can be a necessary tool to maintain social order, particularly in times of crisis, while others see it as a dangerous threat to democracy and freedom of thought. If you're a regular on this channel, you can guess which camp I fall into. Spoiler alert, it's the latter. Despite their different approaches and areas of focus, all of these thinkers were concerned with the potential dangers of deception and manipulation in society. They saw the use of the noble lie as a threat to individual freedom, social justice, and democratic governance. As such, their work continues to be relevant today, particularly in the context of the ongoing debates around the role of truth and transparency in politics and society. That's it for this video. Thanks for spending this time with me. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe and ring the bell, and I'll see you next time.